Welcome to Tell 'em TAGE, the podcast where we talk about growth, we talk about change, we talk about ownership, entrepreneurship, and also balancing parenting and business. I have a special guest on my show today, Mr. Marc. Mr. Marc is a special guest to me because he's the very first guest that I have had on my show that I completely don't know. Today I met him. I met him today. So.
That's right.
Good
to meet you. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you, brother.
Yeah.
He's the owner of 3 barbershops, a couple restaurants in different states. Like I said, I completely don't know the man. He reached out to me on Instagram. I will probably leave the message that he sent me, which led to this interview, which I was super, super impressed because, as you guys know, I'm trying to open up multiple barbershops too. And this man has already done that. So I will be picking his brain here on the podcast and much longer after that.
Nice.
So anyway, let me introduce you to my guy, Marc.
Yeah, thanks.
Pappy's Barbershop.
Pappy's Barbershop. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing, man. I really do. We were talking before the show about how everyone in this business of barbering wants to appear to be a professional, but they sometimes don't treat their own personal business professionally.
Right.
And so I appreciate what you're doing, bringing some professionalism to our industry and making it, I'm sure you've experienced too, where the customer will still ask you, is this what you do part-time? Mm-hmm. They don't realize that this is like a legitimate thing.
I hate that.
So the more people we can get out there talking about how it is a legitimate thing is going to be important. And then, of course, business is like my passion. I love opening businesses. I love creating things. I love employing people or giving people opportunity as well. So, and then I'm a dad too to 2 daughters as well. So balancing all that can be a challenge. And so I appreciate what you do.
Nice. So just a little bit, I don't know if you watched the podcast with my mom, but when I was out there hustling and I told her I'm going to go to barber school, the very first thing she said is, that ain't no job.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone always thinks that, it's a part-time thing or, because you don't know how much you make, a lot of barbers don't even file taxes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, when you sent me that message, I had to read it 2-3 times. Like, dang, this man is doing actually what I want to do already. So I have to. I scooted a couple people back. I told them, I'll interview you later. I need to interview this guy.
Cool.
So I appreciate you coming through.
Yeah.
Definitely, I hate when people ask, if this is what I do full time, or what's your full time job, or what's your No, this is it. And I encourage every barber that I have, write down how much you make, because at what other job do you not know how much you made?
Yep.
You know what I mean? I don't know what I made a week. I don't know what I made all year. So please write down. It's easy. Do the cut, turn around, write down how much you made, and add it up at the end of the year or end of the month.
Yep.
So I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate your professionalism as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into barbering, business owning, and stuff like that?
I've been a business owner, self-employed since 2005. Actually, I opened a tattoo parlor in Point Loma, and I was a body piercer at that time. And body piercing was coming off of being a really kind of popular thing. And in 2005, I was turning, I don't know, I'm 49 now, so in 2005 I was probably 30 years old. Right. And it was just something piercing was not something I was into, but I love chatting with people. I'm good at talking people up, and I said, what could I do at this tattoo shop that I could combine with and make some money besides just sitting around waiting for piercings to come through.
Right.
And I was working a full-time job at the same time doing other things because piercing just wasn't paying the bills.
Right.
And so we had a little corner in this tattoo parlor, and I said, man, I'm just going to turn it into a barber station, and I'll cut the tattooers and the clients who come through, and if I can make a couple bucks, it'll be great. It'll just be something that I can do. Little side hustle.
Right.
And within just a few months, I was booked all the time. And at that time I was working, 6 days a week. I would come in at 8 a.m. I would leave at 11 at night, and I'd be cutting all day by myself. Nobody else in there, nobody to learn from. I went straight from barber school right to my own shop.
Nice.
One chair, learned it all, made all the mistakes on my own. And yeah, here we are today. I have, I think 21 barbers that work for me, 3 stores. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey.
No more piercing.
No more piercing. That I left that a long time ago. Yeah. And I also sold the tattoo shops as well in 2018. And then just to focus on, barbering, I also owned a tattoo removal clinic. I sold that in 2021.
Oh, okay.
And, that was a huge life changer for me selling that business, because it, helped push me to the next level too.
That's interesting. You put the tattoos on them, then you help take them off.
Take them off, yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like that lady in San Francisco. She worked for the drug administration, but she was passing out the drugs.
Oh, right.
double dipping.
Yeah, right.
I got a question.
Sure.
So you said you had a piercing business with barbering in it. How did you separate the
so interesting,
hair-wise?
Yeah, interesting enough, at that time there was no tattoo shops that had barber shops in them as well. Now there's a bunch of them that have that.
Right.
And there's new rules about that. When I was there, the rule was you have to have a wall between the barber shop and the tattoo shop, because there's health issues with the tattoo shop and hair.
With hair, yes, definitely.
So in my head, I put up a little pony wall and went to town. And then a health inspector came in and said, no, it has to be a wall, floor to ceiling.
Yeah.
It has to be completely separate. And I said, hey, it just says a wall, and this is a wall. They literally changed it because of me. So I apologize to all the tattoo barbershops now, because it's my fault that you now have to have this separation. But yeah, like I said, it was just me and that one, so although I was cutting all day, I wasn't generating that. And I was real conscious about like getting the hair in the tattoo area.
Right,
and it was somewhat separate anyway, so it wasn't really an issue.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it was at that time, it was the only one doing it. So.
Are you from San Diego originally?
No, I'm from New Jersey, man.
Jersey.
Yeah, East Coast.
Right?
Yeah, I've been out here for 25 years though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Stealing cars in New Jersey. Huh?
Yeah, right.
How did you come up with the name Pappy's?
Actually, when I was a piercer, the tattooers used to always be like, let's go out, let's go do this, let's go do that. But, I'm drug and alcohol free my whole life. I've never smoked weed. I've drank alcohol once when I was a kid. I don't smoke cigs. I've never, I'm vegan. So I care about my body. I also like to go to bed early, wake up early, do yoga, this type of stuff.
Nice.
The fellas used to always be like, come on, old Pappy, you're like an old man. Come on, old. So they used to call me Pappy when I was a piercer. So when I became a barber, I was like, it's a good name for a barbershop. Right. So I kind of called it that. So I am actually Pappy. I'm the person. But especially back then when I was like 32 years old, whatever, people were like, you don't look like an old man. But I guess it's more of how I act.
Oh, that's interesting. Never smoked weed.
Never smoked weed, no.
Man.
No, I had a lot of good examples of drug addicts and alcoholics in my family as a kid.
Yeah.
And kind of turned me off from that. And so I'm also an extremist, man. And I know that if I smoked weed, I'd go from smoking weed to doing heroin in like a minute, because I'm very extreme in everything I do.
Gateway drug.
Yeah, I'd like to, and I think in my head, I'd be like, well, I get a little high if I could get really high. And and I just know my personality well enough to know that I probably shouldn't mix myself up in that stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How do you go about choosing your locations, or how did you choose your very first location?
The first one was in the tattoo shop, but then basically I just grew out of it. Mm-hmm. In the college area right there on El Cajon Boulevard. Like I said, it was just me. So I was cutting 6 days a week, and eventually, how barbering's hard on your body, man. It hurts your back and your shoulders and everything else. Yeah, everything. And so I said, I need to spread this out a bit. Because there was a point where you could only get in with me again by booking right at that moment. So I finish your haircut and then let's book your next one, or else I can't get you in for like 4 or 5 weeks. So I was booking the next appointments, and it got to a point where I was like 6 weeks out. And people were like, well, I want to get my hair cut every 2 weeks. And so I hired a barber. I stopped working till 11. I would leave at 7 and let another barber work from 7 to 11. And then he got booked. And I said, okay, now I need to open like a proper barber shop. So just down the block, a half a mile, I opened a 5-chair shop and immediately started with 4 barbers in there. They all got booked out. We went to 6, 7. Then we had 8 barbers out of 5 chairs. Everybody's sharing stations. And then during COVID, I actually moved across the street to the 10-chair shop that's there now.
Nice. And that's your first, that's Pappy's number 1.
That's Pappy's number 1. So there's like 3 versions of Pappy's number 1. It went from the 1 chair to the 5 chair to the 10 chair, but they're all within 1 block of each other.
Nice.
So now currently the big shop is right there. That's Pappy's number 1.
And then you said you have 3 shops. So where is your second shop?
Is in Poway.
Poway.
On Poway Road. So I basically, what happened was I took a customer who was just a really good kid. Was cutting his hair for a long time. He kind of didn't know what he wanted to do in life, but he was really good. He could chat people up, you know. And I said, you got what it takes to become a barber, man. Like, you're good at talking with people. Like, why don't you think about doing an apprenticeship? So we actually looked into how to do an apprenticeship, like legitly.
Right.
And he signed up with a school actually right here in Escondido. It was like a beauty school where he was doing his book hours and he was doing his apprentice hours at the shop.
Right.
And so he did a full apprenticeship, became a barber, and then he said, you know, man, I kind of want to do my own thing too. And my thing is, I always want to help people take it to the next level. I don't want them to work at my shop and then go to this shop and then that shop. And then, I'm like, stay here, get established, and then let's open a shop together. We could call it Joe's Barbershop, or you can open a Pappy's Barbershop too if you want. You know, I'm happy to help, and I can invest, I can just consult, I can, however you want me to be involved, I'm happy to do it. So he said, well, I want to open a Pappy's because it's already got a name.
Right.
And there's a website and there's a logo, and it would be easier. And he was younger, you know, so he was nervous about opening a business. I said, great, let's open a business together. So I co-own that Pappy's with that barber. So
nice.
It's really cool because it's full circle, because he went from a client to an apprentice to a barber and now a business partner.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's really my goal for everyone, because, you know, like I said, I'm almost 50 years old, man, and I can't physically barber anymore. It hurts my body. And I have other things going on too, and barbering frankly takes away from the other things I have going on. Time consuming, yeah, because you got to be there putting in the time, right? And so now I'm lucky and fortunate enough that I have barbers that kind of, you know, run the shops for me. I do spend a lot of time there because my office is also there too, but I'm also working on my other projects while I'm there.
Nice. You said other projects. What else? What other? I did mention that I was going to leave the message that you sent me, but what other projects do you have going on?
Yeah, so like I said, I was fortunate enough to sell this tattoo removal business in 2018, or I'm sorry, 2021, whenever it was. And it afforded me the luxury to start a passion project, which is a vegan restaurant.
Nice.
I'm super passionate about being vegan. Not in the way that I push it on anybody, but in a way that I wanted to start a restaurant where people could eat something familiar, vegan style, so that they could see that they're not missing anything by not being vegan. And so I opened this restaurant with a business partner in Portland. He's from Portland, and we have a shop there in Portland. We have the one here in San Diego,
nice.
And then we have one in Seattle, Washington too.
Nice.
And so, yeah, man, our mission is really just it's for the animals. We're super passionate about the animals, but it's also good for people's health and the environment and everything too. So barbering allowed me the opportunity to open this tattoo removal clinic that also allowed me to sell that tattoo removal clinic that now has led to me being able to do this passion project as well. Came full circle. And then I also do some house flipping and stuff like that too on the East Coast as well.
I need to come check out one of your restaurants. I have a concierge at my shop. He's vegan, super vegan. Matter of fact, when I showed him your message, he was like, "Oh, I need to go check out one."
Yeah.
But I'm not no big animal person. It's just I kind of want to see what it's like to not eat meat and see how my body would feel, because I always hear people saying you won't be so sluggish, and like me, I eat all kind of meat. I eat pork, I eat pig, I eat everything. So I need to come out there and check out.
Yeah, you got to check it out. I mean, it's a different time. I've been vegetarian anyway, 35 years or 34 years, something like that. Vegan for a few years now. And the way it's so easy to eat vegan now. Back in those days, it was a salad was all you could eat, really. So nowadays it's super easy, and there's just no need to eat the meat. And we're just out there, we're trying to get people like you in there. That's why we want them to come in, because I don't have to convince a vegan to come eat at my store.
Right.
I want other people who maybe
my biggest thing is taste. Like he eats tofu and stuff and Impossible burgers, and to me it's a mind thing.
Right.
Like, I'm not eating a animal, I'm eating a plant that's shaped like, but like you said, if the taste is still the same, I'd be one of those people where you just give me something and don't tell me that it's vegan. And if I like it, I like it. And if I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the way. That's the point of why we're doing what we're doing, is so that you can see that you're not missing anything here, and it's good for your body, and it's good for the environment, especially it's good for the animals. So, it's an important thing for me.
Gotcha. Back to the barbershop.
Yeah.
You choose your locations by how you said your hiring process. How do you go about your hiring process?
So I teach at the school once a quarter. I went to Associated Barber College downtown.
ABC.
So I like to give back by going down there, and I teach the business of barbering. I don't teach hair cutting. Because in all honesty, man, I was always an okay hair cutter, not a great hair cutter. I'm very average at hair cutting.
Same here.
But I'm very good at yapping. And so when I go to the college, I'm teaching them, like, this is how you build a clientele. This is how barbering can change your life. It's not about cutting hair, having the cleanest fade, or anything like that. This is a place that people come to have an experience. If you give them a good customer experience, they will come back. Even if you give them a bad haircut, they'll give you another chance because they like you. If you give them an amazing haircut, a super crispy lineup, a super nice haircut, but you're a dick, I mean, they're just not going to go, or cocky, or you're not paying attention to them. You're too busy with talking to this guy and that guy, or, whatever. You're talking about some out of line stuff, and then they're not going to come back. And they will come back more for your personality than they will for your haircut. And plus, you always got to remember, haircutting it's subjective. I could give a haircut to the same guy that you did, and they just think mine's better for whatever reason.
Right.
And but one thing that's not subjective is the connection you make with them, the customer, and so that they want to come back to you because they like you, have something in common, or their conversation is good, or you remembered that they just came back from vacation, or whatever it is. That people care about that, because the barbershop is like the last place on the planet where you actually have to sit and talk with people for a half hour, 45 minutes, no phone interruptions, no nothing. It's actual conversation.
Right.
And where else in the world do you do that? You just don't. You don't. When you're at Starbucks, you're on your phone, you're looking down, you're not talking with the barista. When you're anywhere for that matter, it's just, there's no interaction at all. And so the barbershop's real unique like that. So it's really important for barbers to use their skill in talking with people to connect, and then you also build a clientele of people who are like you, who like to talk about what you like to talk about, and it makes your job better too.
Right.
Because the worst thing is when somebody supports some political party that you don't like, and they come and they start talking about it, and you're just like, oh man.
Right.
But if over time you build a clientele of people who like to talk about what you like to talk about.
They like basketball.
They like basketball. They like whatever they're into. You know what I mean? Or they're big on their family too, or they're vegan too, or whatever it is. And then you build this your own little community within the barbershop, which is great.
I always say barbering is an intimate business. Like, how many times are you going to let a man get this close to your face? You know what I mean?
Real,
we're almost kissing.
Yep.
Whenever would that ever?
Or touching them or whatever. Yeah, like, touching their face.
What other man are you going to let touch all on your head, pull behind your ear?
Yeah.
You're not. So it's an intimate business. I seen that on Instagram one time, and I saved it because it is. Like, there's no other time, no offense to homosexual people, but there's no other time I'm going to let a man get, you're lining up my lip. You know what I mean? And that's never going to happen other than a barber.
Yeah, for sure.
So
definitely.
That's a good, very, very, very good point. That's why I wanted to interview you. I had some knowledge of what I do. I'm trying to get to my third shop like you, boss.
Nice.
Have you ever had to fire a barber?
I have. I've had, I'm very fortunate in that until recently, I've never fired a barber. They've always either left because they've moved out of town and you got to be careful with this word fire, right? Because they're actually independent contractors. So they're not employees, right? So it's important that we kind of, figure out that line in the barbershop. And I recently had to let someone tell them it wasn't working out at the shop because they were being inappropriate with a customer that came to me and said, "Hey man, I know you run like a kind of classy establishment here, and this is the conversation that was going on. It made me feel uncomfortable." And so I told the barber, "It's just not working out. I think it's best for you to go work somewhere else." But that was the only time, man. I really take pride in like having a place where people can grow and they like to be there. I keep the shop very busy. Like a brand new barber out of school will work at my shop today. He will start today and he will be booked from open to close. That's just how I like to keep the shop, because it's, as you know, when you're depending on people to build a clientele of their own, it's sometimes they're not good at it. And so I'd rather have them be busy and then say, "Hey man, I noticed the conversation was a little off. I noticed the haircut didn't look so good," and then kind of coach them to build their own business within my business, and then that way they can move on in a more positive way and not a way that they felt taken advantage of or something like that. Because as you know, there's lots of ego in this biz.
Super.
And if you can help coach these barbers to like get out of their own head and to say, "Hey, look, man, this could be good for you if you just humble yourself a bit." And the end all be all isn't doing fades all day, because I can tell you after 10, 12 years, you're not going to want to do it. Right. It takes a toll on your body. You're tired of the conversation, the same all the time. I mean, when you have a full clientele and you go on vacation to Hawaii or whatever, when you come back, you have to tell that story about going to Hawaii 10 times a day for the next 3 weeks, because the people, they want to know. How was Hawaii? And you tell them the story over and over and over again. So it's very, that's not the glamorous part of barbering. Right. And so, you want to get to a point where you can empower barbers to run your stores for you. And that way we can retire someday. Because you can't, when I see these barbers that are 85 years old cutting hair, I'm like, I just don't know how they're doing it.
They don't have that mindset.
They just,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like, physically, I don't know how they're doing it. That's a lot of years standing on your feet, hurting your back and your shoulders and everything else. So, and I mean, frankly, I want to spend more time with my family. I want to spend more time doing what I love as I get older. And so I can take these younger guys and say, "Hey, look, let me show you how we do this here so that you can do it too." And then we take care of each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that's the best way to go about it.
How old are your daughters?
One is 8 and one just turned 13.
Oh, okay. So they're young. Would you recommend them to be barbers? Or in the hair industry?
Yeah, I mean, I want them to do what they want to do. I want them to do, here's the thing, like barbering, I don't wake up every day. Actually, I don't cut hair anymore, like I said. But when I was cutting hair, I don't wake up every day and say, or I didn't wake up every day and say, I I can't wait to cut hair today. What I love is building the business. I love the camaraderie of the barbers. I love the seeing the business grow, and that's what drives me. And barbering has allowed me the things to do that I love. Travel, be with my family, open other ventures, do passion projects. Barbering allows me that luxury. So I was never one of those barbers who was like, I just care so much about my craft. I want to be the best. I want to, I mean, and that's great. I wish that I was like that about something, but I think it's important. But I think a lot of people aren't happy in life because they feel like they have to have something they're so passionate about to be successful. But the reality is if you can do something you enjoy that affords you the luxury to do the things you love, then you win.
Freedom.
Then you have the freedom to do the things you love, then you win. So barbering has done that for me in that way, not in the way that I get up and I can't wait to do a fade every day.
Nice. That's some good game right there. You said they're independent contractors. That was one of my questions. Do you have booth renters or do you have commission?
So we have both. New barbers coming in, they are all on commission. Because I'm providing them all the clientele. Like I said, you could come start at my shop today, you'd be booked open to close, no problem. And then, so what I did with the Pappy's Premier is once you've been working for me for a certain amount of time and you've built up enough clientele, I kind of kick you out of the nest a little bit and I go, okay, move over to Premier. You're gonna have to step up your professionalism. You're gonna have to do a little bit of your own marketing.
Advertising.
You're gonna have to create a better experience for your customer. And then ultimately, my idea is that after they start at the barbershop, they go to Pappy's Premier. I take those barbers, we open stores together. That's kind of my thought process. So they are independent contractors. They all have to have their own business license. They all have to have their own liability insurance. And again, this comes with being a professional, you know? It's not typical at barbershops that they require you to have a business license, insurance, and all that stuff. But in my head, this is what takes people to the next level. I do lots of education with my barbers about, are you saving? What does your 401k look like? What does your Roth IRA look like? And these are foreign to barbers. You know, they don't understand about saving. They don't understand about investing in it. I tell them, like, here's how compound interest works. Let me show you. I'll take the compound interest calculator out. I show them, here's what can happen if you save so that you don't have to do this forever. You know, and so, yeah, you know, they are all independent contractors, employees. Employees are for places like Supercuts or wherever, you know, and frankly, they do that because they're not busy, you know, so the way they entice people to work there is to pay them hourly. And some people are okay with that.
And benefits.
Yeah, people are okay with that, right? They just want to make $16 an hour. That's fine. But as you know, barbers can easily make $100,000 a year if they're hustling. So, you know, you can't do that when you're working hourly. So I think some barbers might like the idea of being an employee, but the reality is they don't really want to be an employee.
So you have the same business model I'm thinking of. I opened up Culture One, and then I hired a guy, and he's been there about 4 years. And I told him, hey, you know, once I open up a couple more shops, I'm going to be looking to sell this one, the very first one. And obviously, you've been here the longest. You're going to be the very first candidate to buy this shop, or at least go, you know,
partner in.
Because right now I don't have any partners. I don't kind of know how that works.
Yep.
Which I'll pick your brain on that, maybe on the podcast, maybe after. But yeah, that's my business model, is open up these shops, and who's ever been there the longest, who's ever really about their business, and I can see them owning a business good, then that's kind of the route that I want to go. So like I said, I definitely want to pick your brain, maybe off camera. We'll sit down and have lunch or something. That's what's up, brother. We're going to wrap up this session of the interview. We're going to come right back and do a little game I call Most Important, and I'll ask Mr. Marc from Pappy's what's more important between this or that. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I got so many more questions, but like I said, we're out of time. We'll probably do a part 2. I want to appreciate, I want to thank Marc for coming in. Once again, it's Tell 'em TAGE, the podcast. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Pappies.
Yep.